Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Inside the Aisle. I'm your host, Niki Wolfe, and today we're coming back to the Coach's Corner, and we're going to be talking all about anxiety, how to reduce it, how to possibly even eliminate it by using practical tools that are readily available for us, or other things that we can get that, might be very cost effective, and just different solutions that we can take in order to reduce and alleviate anxiety. And, the holidays coming up, this tends to be a very anxious time for a lot of individuals for a variety of reasons. Maybe it's the traveling, and maybe it's just the overwhelm and the stimulation from being together with all people and having to get gifts, or maybe it's a really rough season. Maybe you've lost somebody and the holidays are just something that's really difficult time of your life. And so for whatever reason that you are facing anxiety, I hear you, I feel you, I've been there, I still am there. And so I understand the depths and how difficult it is. And so I'm just here to share practical things that we can do on a regular basis that are either free or inexpensive to help eliminate that anxiety. So let's jump on in. And I know I briefly spoke about it in this episode, but also in our adrenal and anxiety episode. If you haven't heard that, I believe it's episode number 2 or 3, and it's all about adrenals and anxiety. And I just kind of give a little bit of a background of what I've been through and what I still go through. I've dealt with anxiety for a number of years. I've even had to get on medication for some time, and just very debilitating panic attacks where you just don't even feel like you can function, that you just need to be spoon-fed by somebody else. So I completely understand. Some of it has to do with either hormonal imbalance, some of it is circumstantial, different things in life, but a lot of the stuff that I've understood and grown to accept is it's all in the mind. It's all mindset, not all. A lot of it is mindset, and the way that we can shift and look at our anxiety in a different lens is going to be so effective at reducing the impact that anxiety has on us. Sorry if you hear those noises. I don't know how to mute them, so I apologize if that's distracting. But so with that being said, let's actually jump in to 5 different tips on how to reduce that anxiety. And the first one has to do with that mental component and the different things that the way we can shift our perspective. And that is about let it be. So when you face different circumstances of anxiety, a lot of times we push away from that. We, it's such an uncomfortable feeling that we try to get rid of it as much as we can. But what's so fascinating is it's that resistance that intensifies that anxiety. It's that feeling that this isn't right. This isn't supposed to be happening. What's wrong with me? That increases the anxiety. But instead, if we can sit with it and accept it and be, okay, I see you, you're here, you could stay, but you're not going to take a big place in my brain. Of understanding that not every day is going to be, calm and peaceful, that there's going to be days that are ugly and difficult, and just accepting that in the moment of that anxiety, that it's okay to not be okay. I'm just going to let this be. I'm just going to ride this out and let it be. Because the thing is it will pass. I'll have to find, there was a podcast that I listened to forever ago. It was the most beautiful explanation of difficult moments, whether it was seasonal moments or just like very, very temporary moments. And it explained it in terms of the ocean. And I'm totally going to butcher this, but just to give some sort of background with it. Okay, sorry about that. I found a way to get rid of the notification noise. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. So it talked about the waves of the ocean. And sometimes we're sitting in the ocean and we can see that wave come. We can see that wave build up, and it might be scary. And, it starts to kind of form at its peak, and then it crashes down on us. And we might even be submerged underwater and tumbling on underwater and not even feel like we can get up and gasp for breath. Maybe there's a moment that you get a little bit of air, but then you get pushed back down and you get pummeled underneath the water. And it's scary. It's frightening. It's dark. You can't see anything. It's very unclear of what's going to happen next. But then the wave lessens and, it recedes. And one thing to hold on to is that wave will always recede. So the wave might come and crash down hard on us. But no matter what, we know that wave will always recede. There will always be moments of peace. It won't always be at that intensity forever. And that was something that was really helpful for me to know that this is part of the flow of the ocean, or the part of our journey in life is we're going to feel those waves. And the waves are beautiful and create so much stuff in our life, but knowing that they will recede, that it won't be a forever crash and submerging under the water. And just holding on to that, it will always recede. And I don't know if that's helpful for you, but that's something that gave me a lot of sense of peace and just really cleared my anxiety. And so if that serves any purpose or value to you, I hope that's beneficial. So just to clarify, the first one is just letting it be. The second one, and one that I love to talk about, is eliminating or reducing your stimulation. So that can come in so many different ways. That can be just from beverages, so caffeine, whether that's coffee, energy drinks, tea, reducing that stimulation. But most chances, it's from the noise in our life. It's, we're driving and we're in traffic. That's already enough stimulation as it is. But then we're listening to music or a podcast and we're learning more. Maybe there's a kid in the back kind of screaming or crying. There's so much noise happening. We don't have the ability to calm down. And again, I've mentioned this many times before. The reason why a lot of people get panic attacks or anxiety attacks late at night in bed is because it's the first time in their day that they do not have any sort of external stimulation coming in. And so finding opportunities throughout the day where we can reduce that stimulation, whether that's music, podcasts, books on tape, and all that stuff is beneficial and serves a purpose. But if you are in the moment of an anxiety attack, you want to eliminate as much of that as possible. And it might sound counterintuitive of, it might seem like, okay, let me create a distraction so that I don't have to deal with this. That's a temporary Band-Aid or solution, but that's not ever going to solve the problem. And so that will kind of lead me into, one of our next tips. But in this moment, just reducing the stimulation as best as possible. Maybe if you're in a room with a lot of noise or people, out and about, or maybe you're watching a movie that's a little intense, remove yourself from that situation. My husband and I will watch like a movie or TV show at the end of an evening. And I love like war movies. It's funny because I either like cartoon, very like family friendly, or super gritty like war, whether that's, World War I or World War II, or even like present day wars or prison movies or like gang related violent. It's such a spectrum of movies. However, if there's those times that maybe he's really into the movie and I might be too, but I feel like my anxiety is a little heightened, I'll actually leave early, go into the bedroom, no music, no noise, and I'll just lay there and allow myself to slowly go into sleep and just think and just sit there. And removing that stimulation is something that will drastically reduce my anxiety. So try that out if you have not already. And again, caffeine, that's one of the biggest things. And I remember I used to work with a colleague and she went to therapy and her therapist said, I will no longer continue working with you if you don't give up caffeine. And, as difficult as that might be to hear for her, there's so much truth to that. That is one of the biggest culprits of anxiety. And so if we can't give that up, we can't expect, to have this major reduction in anxiety. All right. So that leads me to tip number 3, and that is deep breathing. So deep breathing helps in so many different ways. It helps us get into that present mode. It helps with our vagal nerve and our just really calming and aligning our parasympathetic nervous system. So there's 2 different types of nervous system. There's your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic. So your sympathetic nervous system is like your fight or flight. It's like, there's a bear chasing you. You need all of that energy going to your muscles that you can sprint away. But the parasympathetic nervous system is your relax, rest, digest. And so when we are in a state of an anxiety, we want to kind of trigger that parasympathetic nervous system and get it into action. And so deep breathing is going to be really valuable at doing this. And there's a variety of ways of doing it. I mean, just meditation in general will be helpful. Honestly, for as much as anxiety as I face, I have never been a meditation person. So you just got to find what works for you. But for me, when I am in moments of anxiety attacks, I will be doing deep breathing. So it kind of varies depending on what I need. I'll either inhale for as long as I can and really elongate it. I'll hold at the top. So I think it's called like the box method. So let's say you inhale for 7 seconds, then you hold it for 7 seconds. And then you exhale for 7 seconds, hold it for 7 seconds, and then repeat that cycle over and over again. And so 1, it stimulates that parasympathetic nervous system and that vagal nerve, but it's also getting you in that present moment and focusing on, okay, I really have to pay attention. I have to count these numbers. And that's why grounding techniques and a lot of times therapists will recommend, okay, I want you to explain your favorite, most peaceful moment. What does it smell like? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Who do you see? All these different things. Or is there a taste there? They want you to explain all this stuff because it gets you so submerged in that present moment that you forget about everything else that's going on. And so deep breathing and just doing, these different acts of meditation in whatever way is helpful for you will drastically reduce anxiety. So something I highly recommend. Tip number 4. So for me, this is how it works, but there's different ways you can do it. I will pray to God, can you get me through this? And even if you are not a believer of any sense, having that mindset, or if there's a higher power or just any sort of, not intuition, but any sort of thought that you can put out there into the universe or whatever that might be for you, instead of trying to get me out of this, ask to get me through this. Because this is where growth happens. This is where we grow from. I mean, that's how we get better and stronger and, we become more relatable to others and we can provide more value and service to others. It's not removing ourselves from the pain. It's getting through the pain. And so something that's helpful for me is just asking God, can you get me through this? I don't need to be removed out of it as much as I want to be. Get me through it. Give me the resources, the strength, put the accountability, put the resources in my life that is going to help me along this journey. Because once we made it through it, we're so much better because of it. And in those days that stuff pops up again, and maybe it's similar experiences, we can always remind ourselves, we've been here and we made it through it. And even some of those moments were even heavier. We're even more anxiety provoking. We're even scarier. And we made it through it. Whereas if you got out of it somehow, you don't have that experience to tap into. You don't have, that understanding that, no, I am fully capable of doing this again. And so asking the universe, God, higher power, whatever that might be, or maybe it's just journaling, to get you through this instead of out of it. And lastly, tip number 5 is take advantage of supplements. So supplements are incredible at supplementing the diet and supplementing lifestyle to just add bits of nutrition and, support for different conditions that we might be struggling with, and in this chance, anxiety. And there are some incredible ingredients, vitamins, minerals, herbs that are so helpful at reducing anxiety. And so I'm here to talk about 3 different supplements, all from Life Seasons. So the first one is one of our brand new products. It's from the Essentials line in Life Seasons, and it's ashwagandha. And so you guys might be familiar, ashwagandha is an adaptogenic herb. And so what it does is it adapts to the stressors in your body. So it gets its name because, or not ashwagandha gets its name, adaptogens get the name because these are herbs that are grown in extreme altitudes, climates, just environments, and they are able to thrive despite their circumstances. So maybe they're like way in the mountains, freezing cold, or in the desert with their, it's boiling hot and not enough water, yet they're able to thrive. And so what we do is we take on those herbs and we take on the characteristics of those plants. And so ashwagandha being one of those adaptogens, it can now, once we've absorbed it, it can now adapt to the different extreme environments in our body. And so ashwagandha is one of my favorite adaptogens. Again, this is from Life Seasons Essentials. We use 900 milligrams of the withanolides. So the withanolides are the active constituent or active ingredient in ashwagandha. And ashwagandha is actually really beneficial for a lot of different things. Obviously, we know it to be supportive for stress and anxiety, but it's even good for athletic performance. So if you're looking to help improve recovery, reduce inflammation, ashwagandha is going to be a really good ingredient to get in your system. So again, we are using 900 milligrams of ashwagandha. And one just thing to mention too, the upper limit of ashwagandha in a day is 6,000 milligrams. So even if you're already taking a supplement or a formula with ashwagandha in there, chances are they're not using, maybe more than 300. So taking an additional ashwagandha, you are going to be totally fine with. Actually, we use the 900. So, but a lot of formulas don't have a hefty amount. So 6,000 milligrams is that upper limit. But where I really want to spend our time is on Life Seasons Therapeutics line. And so there's 2 products. I'll leave kind of the big one for last. So we're going to start with adrenals. Again, I've done I believe it was Shelby and I did a conversation all on adrenals and anxiety. So you can check that there. I'll see if I can link it in the show notes below. So if you are interested in adrenals and anxiety, I would highly recommend listening to this episode. And adrenal issues, if you do too much caffeine, not sleep enough, overwork, overtrain, maybe you're trying to lose weight, so you undereat and you work out a ton. Maybe you are a single parent, or you're working 3 jobs, or you just lost a significant other, or your parents are going through a divorce. Whatever that might be, you're going through stressors, whether that's internal, external, physiological, environmental. It's all taking a toll on your body and on your adrenals. And if your adrenals are shot, anxiety is going to be one of the biggest symptoms that your body will create. So if that sounds like you, if you feel like you're always tired but wired, just exhausted but also jittery, I would highly recommend listening to that episode on adrenals and anxiety. So, just to still round out this supplement tip of reducing anxiety is doing an adrenal formula every single day. But the main one is going to be taking an anxiety formula. So that is going to help in the moment. It's going to kick into your system really quickly. So the product is called Anxiety. I'll actually show you if you're watching the video. So it's called Anxiety. It looks like this. And this is one of our absolute best sellers. It was our number 1 seller for 7 years. I think it's number 3 right now. We just have some other our brain formula is fantastic. Our clinical immunity line is fantastic. But again, we have ashwagandha in here, and we have Sensoril, which is the patented form, which is a phenomenal source of ashwagandha. We have GABA. So GABA is called an inhibitory neurotransmitter. All that means is if we are in the moment of anxiety and our brain is just flying and you're just please pause, stop. If it's going so fast, GABA is going to help slow down the thoughts in your brain. So the thoughts, think of those as your neurotransmitters or your connections. GABA is just going to kind of calm some of those down. You'll also find kava kava, which is really good as a muscle relaxer. A lot of us, especially women, when we're stressed, we kind of like hunch up and we get really tight. Kava kava just kind of relaxes and takes the edge off. And then we have theanine, theobromine, really balancing ingredients. And then we also have magnesium. So many of you guys know magnesium to be incredibly supportive for the nervous system, calming the body, calming the mind. And a lot of people ask, can I take anxiety and adrenal T? Absolutely. I would just recommend doing them at different times of the day. So let's say you wake up with anxiety, get anxiety in your system, and then maybe adrenal T later in the afternoon when you just feel like a little exhausted. Or the flip side, if you wake up and you're so tired and exhausted and you're like, I just got 8 hours of sleep, this doesn't make sense, get adrenal T into your system, and then take anxiety just whenever you feel moments of anxiousness. So I would say adrenal T is going to be like your daily stress support, whereas anxiety is going to be the formula that you keep on you in your purse, in your car, whatever that might be, in your man purse, or that was dumb, just in case you need it in that moment. So just to recap everything, those 5 main tips to reduce or eliminate anxiety is number 1, letting it be, just allowing it to sit and just knowing that there's nothing wrong with you, or there's nothing wrong with the circumstance if you are feeling a wave of anxiousness. It is completely normal. It is completely human reaction. Number 2 is eliminate or reduce your stimulation, whether that's from caffeine, whether that's from noise, or just doing, or going. Slow down the things in your life. Quiet the noise in your life. I did not mention this earlier, but check out float tanks. They are incredible. And I believe they're like the only thing in existence now that it's like this big spa floating pod that you go inside, and the water is the temperature of your skin, so you can't tell where you're, and it's pitch black, except you can start with a light if like in the beginning, if you're paranoid of being like enclosed and dark. It does sound freaky, but the more you do it, the easier it is. And the water is the same temperature as your skin, and so if you can't see, you don't know where like your body begins and the water begins, or it's just so fascinating. And there's hundreds of thousands of gallons, I believe, a ridiculous amount of magnesium in there. So again, very calming for the physical body, for the nervous system, and it is incredibly therapeutic. You can start out with music and light. You can keep it on the entire time, but the whole purpose is to eventually transition to a phase where there's no noise and no light. And it's that first experience where there is no external stimulation. It is complete blackness and stillness. And it is so therapeutic for your mind. Oh my gosh, I'm just thinking about it now. I totally want to do one. And you literally float because the amount of magnesium in there. So you don't sink. You just completely lay, kind of like you're in the Dead Sea, and it'll hold you up. It is fascinating. Check out float tanks. They're not the most inexpensive, but totally worth it. Check out, Groupon. They probably have a ton out there. So anyways, that was a total tangent, but worth it. Number 3 is going to be deep breathing. So whether you do that box breathing, whatever that looks like for you, getting into a meditative state of deep breathing to calm that vagus nerve, to calm or stimulate that parasympathetic nervous system. Number 4 is putting out into the world, to your God, your higher power, in a journal to get you through it, to not remove you out of it, but to get you through it, because that's what's going to build the resilience and the growth and all the learning abilities of this moment. And what is this feeling trying to teach me? I actually have a note up on my calendar, or not my calendar, my whiteboard, and I forget to look at it, but it says, what do you think the purpose of that emotion is? And so when we're in a moment of, maybe it's anger, maybe it's anxiousness, maybe it's sadness, what is that emotion teaching us? And I mean, you can get like philosophical with it or whatnot, but when I'm in those moments of anxiety, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? So changing that perspective of how you look at the anxiety as like a bad thing to what's the opportunity that I can take from this? And then lastly is taking advantage of the supplements out there. So again, from Life Seasons, the Essentials line, we have ashwagandha. And then from our Therapeutics line, we have anxiety and adrenal tea. So that about rounds it up for today. I hope this was helpful. I hope this provided value. Again, you're seeing a trend of me talking about adrenals and anxiety. It's just one of my favorite things to talk about. I've experienced so much more than a lifetime of this in my short amount of years. And so if there's any value or support I can provide to any person, even if it was just one person got something out from this, it was so worth it. So I hope this was helpful, and I will talk with you all soon, and take care.